Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at Scatterplot associations. So far this year we have talked about relationships in math. And one relationship that we've talked about is linear relationships. So I'd like for you to draw two graphs like this. If I were to draw something that looked like this, how would we describe that? Well, so far we've called it linear. We've called it increasing. We've also said when we talk about slope that it has a positive slope. So that's a review of what we've said about that. What if I draw a line that looks like this? We have said that it is linear because it's perfectly straight. We've said it's decreasing, or when we talk about slope, we say it has a negative slope. Well, we're actually going to use that to help us understand what we're looking at today. So when we talk about scatterplots, scatterplots are used by statisticians, by mathematicians to observe relationships. So let's look at what a scatterplot looks like. We're actually going to draw 5 of these. So the first one I'm going to draw, we want it to kind of look like this. A scatter plot is like a bunch of points scattered. But I want you to notice it looks a lot like a straight line. It looks like it's positive. You see how these points are close together? We say that the thing that's graphed here has a strong positive, and I'm going to give you some words. Relationship. That's what we're talking about. You'll also hear that word called correlation. I'm going to give you all of them this time. Or association. There's one more. Or a trend. Every one of those mean the same thing. They're just fancy words for these two things have a strong positive relationship. That's all that means. Let's draw another one. So I want you to draw these dots. They're still going to be increasing, but they're not going to be as tight together. They're kind of going to be loose. So if they're a little bit farther apart, we say these two things have a weak positive. I'm going to use the word relationship, but I could also use correlation, association, or trend. It all means the same thing. Now let's look at another one. Draw another line. This time, let's start like this. Draw your dots close together, but we want it to be decreasing. It's not a perfectly straight line, but it kind of resembles a negative slope or a decreasing line. So with our dots close together, we say this has a strong negative relationship, or correlation, association, or trend. Those all mean the same thing. And then it could also, just like the dots up here, if the dots are a little bit farther apart, but they still look like they're decreasing, or like a line with a negative slope, you say this has a weak negative relationship. And then sometimes things aren't even related to each other. They don't affect each other at all. And so if you got crazy dots that kind of are all over the place, they don't look like they're increasing, they don't look like they're decreasing, there's no pattern, then you say there's no relationship, or no correlation, no trend, no association. Okay? So be able to match relationships with one of these 5 graphs. Well, at some point, I may give you a table. So let's draw a table. Let's see how you would do that. I'm going to get a little more specific here. I'm going to compare a student's math grade and their physics grade. So my goal is to see if there's a relationship between their math grade and their physics grade. So let's draw this table. The first entry is 5566. Next is 93.89. Then we have 89.94. Next is 60.52. 90.84. 45.56. 64.66. There are two more entries. 76.73 and 89.92. So just by looking at the table, I really can't tell if those two things are related, their math and their physics grades. But haven't we used our graphic calculator and graphed lines before? So let's do that now, except we'll just have points. So I'm going to go into Desmos, click the plus, and I want to create a table. And now I'm going to enter those. So I've got 55, 66 is my first one. Next is 93.89. Oops. Next is 89.94. Next entry is 60.52. That's my next point. Next is 90.84. 45.56. And these are coming straight from my table. I'm just putting them into the calculator. Then I've got 64.66. 76.73. And my last point is 89.92. Now remember, if you can't see your points, you can make your graph bigger or smaller. Okay, and you can move it around. So now that I look at that, if that were a perfectly straight line, it looks like it's increasing. And the dots are pretty close together. Yeah, so I would say this is a strong positive relationship. So pretty much there's a strong positive correlation or relationship between a person's math grade and their physics grade. So you're going to use your calculator in this assignment to help you graph your points and identify whether it's a strong positive, a weak positive, a strong negative, or a weak negative. Farther apart is weak. Dots that are closer together are strong. Or if they're just all over the place, no relationship. And last but not least, sometimes they just give you words, guys. Sometimes they give you situations and they say, what's the relationship? Or is there an association or a trend? So let's try some of those. Now, we already said that there are positive, negative, just a quick review, and no relationships. Let me give you this clue before I give you the examples. Positive relationships travel together. Okay, that means both things either increase or decrease together. They travel together. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. If there's a negative relationship, they travel opposite of each other. So one thing might increase and the other thing might decrease. And again, I'm going to give you some examples, so let's just take notes. And you know, if there's no relationship, that it just kind of doesn't make sense. I don't even know what to write for no, but just know that's a choice. So let's look at the first example. So is there a relationship between your shoe size and your math grade? A bigger shoe size doesn't make a bigger math grade. A bigger shoe size doesn't make a smaller math grade, so it's not negative. So there's no relationship or no trend or no correlation. Let's try a few more. So let's look at another one. What about the age of a car and the value of the car? Value is how much it's worth. Well, let's think about this. If it's positive, they'll both go up or down together. So as a car goes up in age, does the value of the car go up or does it go down, decrease? It goes down. Well, that's a negative relationship. They travel opposite of each other. So the age of a car and the value of a car have a negative relationship or trend or correlation. That's how they're related to each other. Let's try another one. What about your age and your height? Well, let's see if they travel together or if they both increase or decrease, that's positive. If one increases and the other decreases, that's negative. So let's think about it. As you get older, your age goes up. Does your height go up, increase, or does it go down, decrease? Well, usually the older you get, the taller you get. Those travel together. So that means there's a positive relationship between those two things. And again, I want to do just a few more because this one has just a little bit more. You got to think a little bit more about this. So let's talk about the number of hours that you read and the pages left in the book. So let's see if those two things travel together or travel opposite. So the more I read, so if the number of hours I read increases, will the pages left in the book increase or decrease? Well, they go down because the more I read, the less I have left. And if you look, again, I want you to use your notes to help you. Travel opposite of each other. So this represents a negative relationship. Next example, what about your height and your shoe size? Let's think about what's typical. As you get taller, as your height increases, what typically happens to your shoe size? Does it get bigger? Does it get smaller? Yeah, it gets bigger. So those two things travel together, so that's a positive relationship. And last but not least, look at our last situation. Does your hair color affect your IQ? Or is there a relationship between your hair color and your IQ? Absolutely not. I mean, they aren't even related at all. So you would say those two things have no relationship. So guys, I want you to make sure that you use your notes. You're going to have some problems. As a matter of fact, it starts with the words. Your practice start with the words, these situations. So remember, if two variables or two things travel together, they both increase or they both decrease, there's a positive relationship. If one thing increases while the other thing decreases, they travel opposite, there's a negative relationship, and no relationships are easy to find. And then again, I want you to use your notes when you're looking at graphs to determine strong or weak, positive or negative, or no relationship. So I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.